other day, it would be a mistake for Trump to come at her as being some kind of far left Marxist radical, because she's not.
She's not.
She is a very much an authoritarian enemy of black people, lock them up cop, and a tool of the military industrial complex and Wall Street, along with Big Pharma. So she's.
I was in California. She lacked professional competence, and she worked on it by hiking up her hemline when she needed influence rather than researching.
Who is Kamala Harris really? Guys, this video right here, we're going to be talking primarily about what a good portion of what Judge Joe Brown said in part one of the segment that he did with the Art of the Dialogue channel. We're going to be talking primarily about these word salads, how controlled this person is. And we're also going to be talking not just so much about the control, but the actual real literal politics of said Democratic Party nominee. And I want you guys to stick around to the end, because it's going to kind of wedge into the second video that I have planned, which of course is going to explain exactly how familiar this situation is to yet another situation. I'm pretty sure you guys have a pretty good idea of where I'm going with that, but make sure you guys stick around for the full bit. We got a lot to discuss. So recently, Judge Joe Brown, he went viral for a bit that he did on the Art of the Dialogue channel. It was the interview that he did that's kind of sort of all, how do I say this, kind of taken off. There's also been another video here on the platform that did not get many views. I'm showing you guys the thumbnail to right now that also took off and went up the algorithm as well. I'm going to try to link them all there. However, what a lot of people have not jumped onto is that the Art of the Dialogue channel released two other bits where Judge Joe Brown talked about Kamala Harris and her record as a prosecutor in San Francisco. Now, you're probably wondering off the bat, is this right here just a good old-fashioned reaction to what Judge Joe said? Well, I would say it's a reaction to not just what Judge Joe Brown was talking about, but also what was uncovered on the Jimmy Dore channel. Now, for all of you guys who don't know who Jimmy Dore is very, very much a leftist. I think he's somewhat kind of woken up to a certain degree, kind of red-pilled himself a little bit more recently, but he's still very, very much a leftist and left-winger. If there's something I get tired of, is I get tired of people saying that Glenn Greenwald is now base, when in reality, he's actually just going to go ahead and go right back to attacking America and blaming America first for everything that happens in this country. By the way, when I say blame America first, I'm talking about the blame America crowd as a whole. That right there is what Jimmy Dore is. Also, something else too, another leftist content creator, Sabby says she's also somebody else who has come out on the left who is not exactly, how do I say, good with supporting Kamala Harris. And I think I know the real reasons why that is the case. So this video right here is going to be looking at some of the stuff in her past that may say to people, look, maybe this right here is not somebody who is, how do I say, anything other than something that has been manufactured. Now, exactly how far manufactured she has been, I'll let you guys determine that there. But the interview that Judge Joe Brown was not that different than the interview he gave with Kwame Brown, where he discussed the exact same stuff. However, he was a little bit more expansive. The problem is that the other two videos and the segment where he talked much more in depth about some of the stuff in her past, for whatever reason, it's not gone viral. I think it's actually the most important stuff. However, I do want to react to some of this information. And of course, in tomorrow's video, I'm going to be telling you exactly what I think this woman's deal really and truly is. This right here is more the reaction. Tomorrow is more, of course, the actual deep dive. But I still want you guys to watch them both, because you guys know me. I will go in there and talk about what I think in the first video, then come back in the second video, and I normally clamp back down with a little bit more. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and look at this interview, some of it, and let's go ahead and start picking it apart.
I was out in California for 15 years doing my show when she was at her peak, and she had a reputation amongst the trial lawyers of being lazy. She just hike her skirt up and try to flirt, and she wasn't that good in the courtroom, if not pretty bad in the courtroom. So I'm not surprised at what she does. She's 60 years old, and I think, listening to her word salad and the way she talks, I think she's got early onset
It's going to be a nice weave around that's going to come full circle here in a second after we respond to not only this one right here, but the other 30 some odd seconds coming on the other side. So bear with me for a minute. That right there was 37 seconds. I'm pretty sure you guys probably expected her to say that she had this thing about hiking up her skirt to get ahead. We kind of sort of already know about this with Willie Brown. We kind of sort of already know about this with her past with Montel Williams. We kind of sort of already know about this with the past that she's had with other attorneys in that area, the San Francisco area, and not to mention the fact that she's married to Doug Emhoff. Now, I want to go ahead and say this really quick because the thing that really caught a lot of people off guard was not so much what I just said, but what Judge Joe said at the very, very end. Kamala Harris is roughly 60 years old, and there are people out there who are automatically jumping the gun and thinking to themselves, well, this woman can't form sentences. She has word salads. She's not very smart. Maybe she's scatterbrained. Well, it's possible that maybe what Judge Joe Brown is saying could be true. She could be developing some form of early onset dementia. Now, Judge Joe is a judge, not a doctor, but still at the same time, you kind of know with certain people when their brain is starting to go, when their mind's starting to go, when senility begins to kick in. But once again, though, comes that question of age. Now, I want to say this really quick about age, okay? If she has some form of early onset dementia, or if she's having a hard time putting thoughts or putting words out there in articulation, that right there could just be the fact that she's not good at articulating her thoughts. But then again, though, we don't know her full family past, her full family history, which, by the way, I'm going to be talking a little bit about in this video because we got to go back to another situation because this right here really and truly, in a lot of ways, feels similar to a separate election year. To me, anyways, it feels a little bit like 2008 because they're trying to remanufacture Obama. They actually tried the same exact thing with Hillary Clinton, tried to scrub over her past, and that was what they're doing with Harris now. But I want to go ahead and make this point about age before we go any further. It's not really how old you are, it's really more how cognitive you are, how with it you are, like where you were at. There are people out there who are in their 80s and their 90s, and they can actually form coherent sentences, and they can actually say things coherently. They can actually articulate. Then again, at the same time, though, you've also got people in their 40s who can't. Also, something else, too, about dementia, thoughts, and whatnot. I want to go ahead and say this right now before we go any further. And I want to use myself. I recently had surgery on my right carotid artery. It was clogged. It was full of plaque. The left side is also clogged and it's full of plaque, too. So they got to go in and they got to do that one, too. I'm not 40 years old yet. Seem kind of young to be dealing with something like that, right? I have to live a specialized life going forward to extend my life beyond the actual capsize or whatever. I'll put it this way here. My life could have been capped at a much, much younger age. Too young to be going through this type of stuff is what a lot of people have been saying, but still at the same time, though, it does happen. You got to take care of your body. So I don't think age is much of a factor. I could have been getting nailed with the same exact thing that Kamala Harris is dealing with word salads and crap. And by the way, there have been times where I thought to myself, you know what? When I record these videos, sometimes it comes off like a damn word salad. I'm in my late 30s, so that's very, very possible it could happen. It could also be the fact that she's also scatterbrained. But still, though, it is a very, very interesting observation given the fact that we have a president right now who is clearly demented. But let's continue forward.
I'm not surprised at what she does. She's 60 years old, and I think listening to her word salad and the way she talks, I think she's got early onset dementia and also some problems with menopausal complications. That's that, you see, today is going to be tomorrow. So since it's going to be tomorrow, today we have tomorrow, which is why we are now. Like, what did you say? They have something in mind, but they cannot cognate getting all the way through it, which is why she's famous for this word salad garbage, and she doesn't make a bit of sense. I think since she's only 60, she's actually on a worse track than Biden was. Biden is 20-some years older than her, and he has been senile for a long time. Now about...
Okay, so that was roughly 50 seconds there, and Judge Joe, of course, expanded on this. Now, I want to say this really quick. Biden's senility, I think, probably began somewhere right around 2010, 2011, because I remember at one point in time, there was this issue with the Obama team where they were a little bit concerned about Biden potentially, campaigning. all you got to do, and I'm not going to sit here and play them over and over again, but all you have to do is just simply type in Joe Biden gaffes, and you will notice that a lot of those gaffes actually started back in 2006, 2000, well, actually before that. And of course, they continue all the way to this day. The stupid things that he says, things that come out wrong, certain things like, for example, poor kids are just as smart and bright as white kids. Judge Joe Brown also exposed something else that Biden said in one of the old school interviews, which, by the way, like I said, I'm going to try to link his videos in the description box as I can of some of his old interviews where he talked about Joe Biden and the hairy legs thing, and he talked about learning something about roaches. That right there is what he used to call little black kids, okay? Joe Biden has been senile for a very, very long time. He's also been racist for a very, very long time, and he says extremely stupid stuff. As a matter of fact, it's word has gotten out that after this recent assassination attempt on Trump, Trump called Biden, and Biden said to him, "Why'd you move your head?" I'm sure that what Joe was doing was he was trying to give some form of a crude joke, but still at the same time, though, the timing of it is pretty daggone awful. Joe Biden has been senile for a very long time, and I would argue that his senility really began to kick in sometime right around 2010, 2011, when he would have been right around 70 years old. So Joe could be, how do I say, on to something there. By the way, if this is the case, Kamala Harris's word salads now are way worse than what Joe Biden's was when he was the vice president for Obama. Just saying, but let's continue.
CLA was political science. My analysis is they picked the weakest somebody they could as a figurehead, somebody who had some apparent minority status, which she does not. And what goes on is that you get her, everybody that is everybody would be afraid to go against her because of what she can pass herself off as. And then you get somebody that's easy to control because she's lazy, because she is becoming incoherent, and because she's always tried to do the casting.
Okay, guys, that segment right there was roughly 44 seconds. Now, that particular segment in the interview is actually a little bit later, and it's after another segment that I'm going to be talking about here momentarily. The casting couch, or her past with other said individuals, which, by the way, Judge Joe does go much, much more in detail in the other two parts that dropped after the 23-minute segment that the Art of the Dialogue did in the initial interview. I want to say he's also talked about her in other interviews as well, with her being a Hindu Brahmin, stuff like that, which, by the way, that right there will come up probably in video number 2, because I think that right there will, I think that right there will ultimately explain where she really truly came from and why it was that this information is being scrubbed. But I'm going to hint more towards that at the very end of the video, because there is something that popped in my dome piece yesterday right before I went to the theater to watch Deadpool Wolverine, which I thought was kind of dumb. It was okay. It wasn't woke, but still getting back on track. The thing is this right here. You would obviously want somebody easy to control if you are the powers that be. The question then becomes, who exactly are the powers that be? Who's actually the establishment? I would say that right now what's going on is that the country's probably being ran by about 3 or 4 people, not just one person in the world, and people keep on looking at Obama. Yet every time you turn around, when Obama says something like you can't take Josh Shapiro because he's too Jewish, you can't take Pete Buttigieg because he's too gay, and then Kamala Harris turns right back around and picks either one of those two as her VP pick, which it looks like she's going to do, that tells me that Obama does not have the control that we think he does. So it makes you wonder who the hell is really and truly pulling Kamala strings. Is Joe Biden actually got more power than we know? Does Jill Biden have more power? Well, if Jill Biden had more power, she would not have selected Kamala Harris unless maybe it was designed to be revenge against the Democratic Party because she knows Kamala would lose. Because she's held a grudge with Kamala Harris ever since Kamala Harris told Joe Biden he was a racist right there on the debate stage. Or ever since she sided with Tara Reade. Look, nothing about Kamala Harris seems real, and I think a lot of people are picking up on it. I mean, there was even this bit here from the Atlanta rally where people came out saying that they actually paid homeless people and were buying people or paying people off to go in there and actually show up for the rally.
Shaking her butt, twerking for a political rally, talking about hotties for Harris. If that did not turn your stomach, like, that is pandering, like, if you've ever heard it. But that's not the catch 'em. Do not let that rally looking full fool you, because Fulton County has been doing this for years. Before the rallies, they get busloads and they go pick up the homeless people. They offer them food, drink, and a little change to come to the rally, so the rallies will look full. Now, you got to realize she just dealt with the rally, and I want to say it was Pennsylvania, where it was less than 60 people. It was quite embarrassing.
I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not making accusations, but then again, though, at the same time, it would not surprise me, especially given some of the tricks that we've seen in the past with other people. For example, the WWF or WWE back in the 1990s, when they hit a they hit a bit of a downturn. Especially right around 1994 and 95, they had a hard time filling up high school gyms. That for pay-per-views, what they would do is it was not uncommon for Vince McMahon to give away tickets for free or even entice some people with promotional stuff to come in there and actually make the arena look a little bit full. I want to say that the SummerSlam in 1995, which was in the Igloo in Pennsylvania, and then I want to say there was another one. I want to say it was the King of the Ring earlier that year, and I want to even say that it may have also been WrestleMania 11 in Hartford, Connecticut, and also actually all the pay-per-view events, they had to actually bring people in for free to make the venue look full. They had the same problem in late 1994 too, so that's where it doesn't really surprise me. And I don't think that rallies are a true indication of exactly what the vote was going to end up being. I say that with a non-wink and a nudge because I'm pretty sure you guys already know that I'm BSing you right there. Definitely rallies show you exactly how organic a movement is. But the point is this right here. There are a lot of people, a lot of content creators, especially content creators of color, black channels in particular, that have been talking about that rally and how ratchet it was and how it is that they're a little bit disappointed in her. And this right even includes some of her own voters. Nothing about Kamala Harris seems real or not. But let's go ahead and get back to what Judge Joe was talking about.
Now, what I said he was going to do is he probably wants to claim fame for being the first person to see to it that a woman got to be president. And what I predicted, I'm slightly wrong on it, was that he was going to get in, try to get elected, and if he got one term, try to get elected for a second one. And then halfway through his term, when he had served 2 years, to retire or resign in her favor. So under the 22nd Amendment, what happened?
Okay, bear with me just for a quick second when I respond to this. Roger Stone, we did a video on him recently, and he's going to pop up in tomorrow's video, or he's going to pop up in the second video in the series, which may come out later on tonight, I'm not sure. But the thing is this right here. Roger Stone has made a lot of predictions in the past, I'd say 7 or 8 years. Ever since Trump came around, Roger Stone has been almost like an oracle. He's been almost 100% correct on most of what he says. One of the predictions he made recently was that they would, in fact, install Kamala Harris as president. So they're going to install her as president, knowing that she could very, very well lose this time around, or lose this year. I think it's very, very possible. I think these people are that unhinged, and I think that Joe Biden is so welded to his legacy that he endorsed Kamala Harris for the sole reason he could resign. Or I wouldn't say it was the real reason why he did it. Obviously, we know he was forced out. But I can see somebody as stubborn as Biden saying, you know what, we're not going to let this right here disrupt my plans. I'm not going to let this right here disrupt exactly what me and Barry wanted to do in 2008 because Barack Obama, while he was president, he wasn't really and truly in charge, wasn't really and truly in control, because maybe presidents are, in fact, figureheads. Maybe that was the real reason why we need to keep Trump out of office, because we can't control Trump, which is exactly the reason why it is that I think she was really taken. You see, Kamala Harris was somebody that, let's just say, she wasn't successful. She was not successful in her first run for president. I mean, she didn't get the Iowa caucuses, and nobody actually voted for her. As a matter of fact, nobody's voted for her, period. This will be the first time anybody lady votes for her. And I personally think it'll be an embarrassing failure, regardless of how much the mainstream media tells you she's ahead right now, which is very odd, especially given the fact that she still polls very, very low, and even lower than Biden in some circumstances, based upon actual literal polling data. A lot of the mainstream media outlet polls are designed to help shape public opinion. I'll give you a good example of what I mean. Fox News has never been good at polls, and they had a poll that came out about a month ago where Trump was up on Biden nationally by 1. But yet somehow we're really in the crosstabs. Biden was up on rural and small town voters. He was actually beating Trump 2-1. Didn't make no sense at all. Maybe it was a typo. Maybe what it meant to say was that Biden was up 2-1 in massively urban areas, but that right there was exactly how the sample was done. It was a very, very dumb sample. It didn't make any sense at all how it was that Trump was up by one, but yet down in an area that he normally dominates. It doesn't really make any sense. So you can't trust anything that the mainstream media says. This also includes other polling companies like Quinnipiac, Monmouth University, Bloomberg, Morning Consult, and NPR. They're the ones that the mainstream media pushes out to serve their agenda, is what I'm saying. And Harris, to go on top of this, she was only pushed on Biden because BLM stepped in. By the way, BLM, they did not, and I talked about this in a previous video, they did not like the fact that they did not get a say-so in who the presidential candidate was going to be post-Biden. They weren't okay with this at all, which makes me wonder if that last prediction that Roger Stone had made about Michelle Obama becoming their nominee might end up, I don't know, maybe pissing BLM off a lot more than it would anybody else. I mean, think about this really quick. One of the attack lines that people love to use against the current crop of Republicans and conservatives is that Donald Trump owns your party and you can't get away from Donald Trump. Yet there was a primary and millions of people still voted for him. The same exact way that millions of people also voted for Joe Biden this past primary season, because guess what? You do still have to go through a primary process as the sitting president because you got to become your party's nominee. The thing is this right here. They say that and say that you guys are undemocratic, yet they pull the most undemocratic crap you can pull and insert Kamala Harris. Now, why in the world would you do that? Probably because Kamala Harris is easier to control. She's more willing to do what it is that the establishment wants them to do. But yet you got Obama, on the other hand, saying stuff like, you can't take Josh Shapiro as VP, he's too Jewish. You can't take Pete Buttigieg, he's too gay. And then you got Kamala Harris doing the exact opposite of what Obama wants and is about to select either one of the two. Doesn't seem to me like Obama has the control we think he does, but of course the perception is that he has extreme control over that party because guess what? He won't go the hell away. I personally, and I laid this right here out in a previous video, that Obama has some say-so, but I don't think he has the full say-so that people may think that he has. I think there's obviously people behind him. There's people on the other side of him that are also pulling the strings as well. And given the fact that when he was in the Oval Office, he wasn't exactly much of a manager, much of a good manager, he probably doesn't really have, let's just say, he's got his hands on it, but he also doesn't have his hands on it. Basically, what he's doing is he's showing you that he's a crappy manager and the store is burning down around him. I want to give you guys one final theory before I go any further. My belief is that what they really want to do is that they want to install Kamala Harris. That is if they lose the election, or if it looks like they're going to lose the election. They want to install her for one reason and one reason alone. Now, I would play some bits from this 45-minute video from Glenn Beck, but Glenn Beck details in this video about color revolutions that most of the players in place aren't really associated with Biden. They're more associated with Kamala Harris. When you actually research, you find out a bunch of people who are in California, connected to San Francisco, the technological community, Silicon Valley. You will see that a lot of them are connected more so to her than they are to Biden or Obama. Now, why would that be the case? Well, I advise you guys watch that video. You see, my theory is that they're going to bring in a color revolution after the election is over with, after Trump wins in a massive landslide. They're going to manufacture that the left couldn't take it. They're going to manufacture that the Democrats couldn't take it. They couldn't take the loss, the never Trumpers, the establishment couldn't. So they're going to try to send a bunch of people out there, probably a lot of them are FBI, to, try to sway public opinion on the Trump administration going in. Or what they could do is try to do exactly what Trump was trying to do in 2021 after the election and try to get an argument in the House of Representatives, followed up by an argument by a senator to hopefully possibly get a 12th Amendment vote, which of course would ultimately fail because Republicans would still have the vote because when that situation, they voted state delegations, not as individual congressmen, which is another reason why it is so damn important that you vote up ballot straight Republican to ensure Trump not only gets in, but Trump also has a Congress and a Senate that will work with him. Very important that you do so, and I think that right there is the actual thing that they plan to do. They plan on redoing what Trump did in 2021, but they plan on doing it from their end, so I believe you're going to see 1-6, this time Democrat style. But let's watch this next part.
The thing is, we talked about this yesterday, or the other day, it would be a mistake for Trump to come at her as being some kind of far-left Marxist radical, because she's not. She's not. She is a very much an authoritarian enemy of black people, lock them up cop, and a tool of the military-industrial complex and Wall Street, along with Big Pharma. So she is a corporate puppet. She's all the bad things you would think of. I used to equate with being right-wing, but now things are flipping around. So I don't those terms don't mean anything.
I'm going to talk more about her hoeing and her race in the follow-up video because obviously the mainstream media is going to try to gaslight you on that one. I'm going to talk more about that one, of course, in the follow-up. But I figured I would throw that part in there just to kind of give you guys a bit of a preview for part 2. And also the way Judge Joe Brown said ho, it's just kind of funny. Just want to throw something in there to kind of give you guys a little bit of a break there because the video is a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. But that right there brings me to the next point, which is also my last point. The true politics of Kamala Harris. Now, guys, earlier in the video, I said that there were certain left-wing content creators, Jimmy Dore, Sabby Says, that are not exactly okay with Kamala Harris being the left's representative. They don't plan on voting for her, and they actually have relatively sizable audiences that, quite frankly, can be impactful in keeping progressive home. The Trump team has smartly adopted the strategy of she's a flip-flopper. She was in favor of Medicare for all. Now she's not in favor of Medicare for all. She was in favor of mandatory gun buybacks. Now it's come out that she's not in favor of mandatory gun buybacks. She is very, very much against fracking, but now all of a sudden she's not against fracking. It seems to me like the flip-flopper strategy, which, by the way, the flip-flopper strategy is extremely effective. Okay, let me give you 2 examples. 2004 is probably the best example. John Kerry had flip-flopped so much, and Bush basically hit him on that level. He was in favor of tax cuts. Now he's in favor of tax increases. He said, I voted against the war in Iraq after I voted for the war. Flip-flops, okay? Flip-flops make you look disingenuous, and Kamala Harris is obviously a fake person. However, the thing about that flip-flop strategy, and a second example would be back in 2012, was Obama used the flip-flop strategy on Mitt Romney during the Republican nomination process, effectively. What happens is that 2 sides of a person's base, or bits and pieces of 2 separate bases, this case would be the progressives and the moderate Democrats or the conservative Democrats, they look at this and they say, yeah, this person's worth my vote. It's actually extremely effective because it cuts at 2 separate bases. It also makes the person look extremely makes the person look extremely disingenuous, which also turns off a lot of independents. It keeps them at home. So technically you're hitting 3 bases, only the core or the 3 bits around the core base. So therefore it deadens the turnout. So it's extremely effective. But the question then becomes, is she really and truly a communist or radical? Of course, you guys obviously heard that. Even the left does not believe that she's a leftist. The reason why is because she is so disingenuous. Now, if you ask me my personal opinion, most of these flip-floppers are just the common, ordinary, everyday politician. They suck, yeah. They're very, very liberal. But I think Kamala Harris's thing, and I'll explain more so in the next part, is that she's more of an authoritarian than anything else. She wants power. She craves power. Therefore, she's going to use power. But, of course, that power that she has, she loves to wield against a certain section of the population. There's a reason why it is so many black men are turned off by her, because guess what? She's went out of her way to lock up a lot of black men. I mean, it's the same woman who, by the way, and like I said, we'll cover it more in part 2. This is the same woman who literally tried to lock up parents for simply dropping their kids off in school and their kids decided to play hooky. That's how authoritarian this woman is. But we'll talk more about that in part 2. Now, let me go ahead and make my final point for this segment here, which, of course, is the overall feeling of this entire situation. Back in 2008, we had a guy by the name of Barack Obama. He ran for president. He won the presidency. People did not have much information on him. And, of course, this is also going to come up in the next part 2 because we're going to be talking a little bit more about him there. But the reason why it is I want to bring this up, or at least give you guys a bit of a taste of this now, is because it's called digging. You have to actually do some research on these people, and you'd be amazed at what you find when you actually begin to look into their past and start asking questions. People will just give it up. You'd be surprised. The thing is right here. When Obama ran in 2008, the most Republicans had was Reverend Wright, the comments of, you say God bless America, I say GD America. There was also a past with Bill Ayers, a member of the Weather Underground, who actually tried to overthrow the city of Chicago back in the late 60s, led communist movements. He even bombed a couple of places, and yet he got a job as a professor at the University of Chicago. Odd sort of characters that Obama was setting himself up with. We did not get the full bit until Dinesh D'Souza came around with a movie called 2016, Obama's America. Dinesh did a phenomenal amount of research and made a great video. The problem is that when he released it, it was a little bit too late. It didn't get around enough. It did catch fire. It did make Dinesh a lot of money. Now, later on, Dinesh would make really more movies. He made one about America, Where Would the World Be Without America? That came out in 2014, and he made one in 2016. It was shortly after the 2014 film that Dinesh found himself inside of a jail cell. Not forever. I think he was there for like 9 months. I want to say him and Debbie actually divorced at that time and then eventually got back together when he got out. I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to go too far into that. But one of the main pieces of people who actually red pilled me on this process was actually Dinesh. You probably hear some of the things I say, like that sounds a little bit familiar. The point is this right here. Barack Obama was never properly vetted in 2008, and they're trying to scrub the internet of anything Kamala Harris related right now. It sounds to me like they're familiar. Maybe they're trying to panic. Maybe they didn't expect her to be the nominee. And of course, they can't really do it. But as I've said before, the more and more you try to censor the net, the more and more it is that this information finds a way to get out, because if it's being scrubbed, people immediately talk about what's being scrubbed. It gets shared, it gets liked, it gets out there, and people can actually see exactly what's going on. They're trying to recreate 2008. However, it will fail for multiple levels or multiple reasons. Reasons, of course, that I will get into in future videos, especially over this election cycle, because obviously things have been put on hold, and of course, due to health, this is kind of the thing I need to be doing at this moment in time right now. Please tell me what you think in the comment section. There will be a second video coming out that will be talking more about her race, her past, her family, and of course, it will also be talking more so about, in part 3, about how it was that she treated a certain section of the population when it comes to sentencing. So make sure you guys stick around for all 3 videos. We're probably going to have 4 videos out total this weekend, including this one here. So make sure you guys stick around for all of them. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. I'll see you guys later.